I'm Olivia Carter, 30 years old, and last Tuesday was supposed to be my career-defining moment. Instead, it became the day my sister Vanessa deliberately humiliated me in front of the entire company and our biggest potential client. What she didn't know was that my husband Gabriel, the man I married despite my mother calling our wedding shameful, was about to walk through those office doors. The look on Vanessa's face when she realized who my husband really was? Priceless. Before I tell you how this all unfolded, drop a comment letting me know where you're watching from, hit that subscribe button, and stay tuned for the moment everything changed. Growing up with Vanessa was like living in a constant competition I never signed up for. My sister, younger than me by just 2 years, was the golden child in our mother's eyes. From the moment she was born, it seemed I faded into the background of our family portrait. Vanessa got another invitation to a birthday party, my mother would announce proudly at dinner. Everyone just loves her. Olivia, why don't you try to be more like your sister? Maybe smile more? Those comparisons became the soundtrack of my childhood. Vanessa's ballet recitals were mandatory family events. My debate team victories barely warranted a conversation. It wasn't that my father didn't care. He just worked long hours at his accounting firm and deferred to my mother on most family matters. Our mother, Eleanor, had a singular obsession: social status. She came from a middle-class background, but had always yearned for more. She married my father believing he would eventually become a partner at his firm. When that didn't happen as quickly as she hoped, she transferred those ambitions to her daughters. "Girls, listen to me," she would say during our lady lessons as she called them. "Beauty fades, but a wealthy husband is forever." For Vanessa, these lessons took root. She learned to laugh at the right moments, to appear interested in topics she knew nothing about, to dress in ways that accentuated her features without seeming too obvious. Mother invested in elocution classes, etiquette training, and expensive clothes for Vanessa, grooming her to attract a wealthy husband. "You're going to marry someone important," she would tell Vanessa. "Someone who matters." For me, the message was different. "Olivia, with your practical mind, you should focus on a stable career. Not everyone can marry well." The implication was clear. I wasn't pretty enough, charming enough, or special enough to attract the kind of husband my mother envisioned. So I turned to the one thing I knew I could control: my education. I studied relentlessly, earning scholarships that took me to a good university, where I majored in marketing and communications. College was liberating. For the first time, my analytical mind and work ethic were assets, not liabilities. I made genuine friends who valued me for who I was, not who I was related to. "You have such clear insights," my professors would comment on my projects. "You understand what motivates people." While I was building my future course by course, Vanessa was taking a different path. She enrolled in the same university, but her focus remained on finding potential husbands. She joined sororities and attended parties where wealthy young men might be present. Her grades suffered, but in her mind, that wasn't the point of college. "Olivia's so serious about her classes," she would tell our mother during breaks. Meanwhile, I've met the son of the Thompson family. You know, the real estate developers? Mother would beam with pride, while my father would glance at me with a mixture of guilt and silent support. He once slipped me an extra check for books when mother wasn't looking, whispering, "I'm proud of you, Liv. Keep going." After graduation, I started at the bottom of Wilson and Reed Marketing as an assistant. The pay was minimal, but the opportunity was immense. I absorbed everything, staying late to learn new software, volunteering for challenging projects, and slowly building a reputation for reliability and innovation. Meanwhile, Vanessa's strategy of dating for status had yielded numerous relationships, but no lasting commitments. She dated a succession of wealthy men: a surgeon who eventually left her for a nurse, a finance executive who turned out to be married, a tech entrepreneur who moved to Singapore without her. "They're intimidated by your beauty," our mother would console her after each breakup. "The right man will come along who deserves you." By the time I turned 28, I had worked my way up to account manager at Wilson and Reed. I was handling important clients, leading presentations, and earning a comfortable salary. I had my own apartment, modest but in a nice area and a small circle of close friends. Vanessa, at 26, was still living at home, working part-time at a boutique our mother's friend owned, and increasingly bitter about her romantic disappointments. "It's not fair," she complained during a rare dinner where just the two of us met. "I've done everything right. I look perfect, I say the right things, I go to the right places. These men just use me and move on." I tried to suggest that perhaps focusing on her own interests and career might attract someone who valued her for more than her appearance, but she dismissed the idea. "That's your path, not mine," she said with a slight curl of her lip. "Some of us were meant for more than just working for others." The divide between us grew wider with each passing year. I sent her birthday cards. She sometimes remembered mine. I invited her to my apartment warming. She came late and left early. I congratulated her on new relationships. She rarely asked about my life. Little did I know that our paths were about to collide in ways neither of us could have anticipated. The stage was being set for a confrontation years in the making, sparked by the last thing I expected: love. I never planned to fall in love with Gabriel Reynolds. It wasn't part of my 5-year career plan, or something I was actively seeking. It happened on a rainy Tuesday evening at a charity auction for literacy programs, an event Wilson and Reed had helped organize. I was there representing the company, making sure everything ran smoothly with the press and attendees. Gabriel was standing by a display of rare books, examining a first edition with careful hands. He wasn't dressed like the other wealthy donors in expensive suits and flashy watches. His clothes were quality but understated: dark jeans, a simple button-down shirt, and a blazer that had seen better days. His brown hair was slightly too long, curling at the collar. "That's a first-edition Hemingway," I said, noticing his interest. "The starting bid is probably more than my monthly rent." He smiled, a genuine expression that reached his gray eyes. "Probably more than mine, too. I just like looking at them. There's something about holding a piece of history." We talked about books for 20 minutes. Not once did he ask what I did or try to impress me with his own accomplishments. Instead, we debated whether Fitzgerald was overrated and if modern authors would stand the test of time. When he finally introduced himself as Gabe, I had no idea I was talking to Gabriel Reynolds, founder of Reynolds Innovation, a company revolutionizing clean energy storage. "I'm Olivia," I replied, offering my hand. "I'm supposed to be working, but this is much more interesting." "Olivia," he repeated, as if testing how my name felt. "Would it be completely inappropriate if I asked for your number?" "I promise I'm not a creep, just a guy who rarely meets someone he can talk to about Hemingway versus Fitzgerald." Our first date was at a hole-in-the-wall Italian restaurant where the owner knew Gabriel by name and treated him like family. He drove an electric car that I later learned his company had developed, but at the time I just thought it was an environmentally conscious choice. We talked for hours about everything except work. He asked about my childhood, my dreams, my opinions on politics and art. "You're different," he said as he walked me to my door. "You're interested in ideas, not impressions." The second date was a surprise picnic in a small park, where he brought homemade sandwiches and admitted he'd had his assistant look up what kind of wine paired well with them. "I'm trying to impress you," he confessed with an endearing lack of smoothness. "Is it working?" It was on our fourth date that I learned who he really was. We were walking after dinner when a business magazine in a newsstand caught my eye. There he was on the cover: Gabriel Reynolds, the quiet revolutionary changing energy storage. I stopped walking. "You're that Gabriel Reynolds?" He looked genuinely uncomfortable. "I should have told you sooner. It was nice having someone look at me and not see dollar signs or business opportunities." He explained how wealth had changed his relationships, how friends from before treated him differently, how women he dated seemed more interested in what he could provide than who he was. "The last 3 women I dated started dropping hints about jewelry they liked on the second date," he said with a wry smile. "One asked if I would invest in her brother's startup before dessert arrived." I understood his caution, but I also felt a flutter of worry. This complicated things. Not because of his wealth, but because of my family. If my mother discovered I was dating someone like Gabriel, She would either try to push us together inappropriately or, more likely, find some way to introduce him to Vanessa. I think we should keep this between us for now, I suggested. Not because I'm ashamed or uninterested, but because I'd like to see where this goes without external pressure. Gabriel agreed readily. I'm used to keeping my private life private. It's actually a relief. For 6 months, we existed in a bubble of our own making. We spent weekends at his lake house, where I learned he was hopeless at cooking but determined to improve. I introduced him to my small circle of trusted friends, who were surprised but supportive. He took me to his company's research facility, where his passion for sustainable energy became vibrantly clear. This could change everything, he explained, showing me prototypes with childlike enthusiasm. Imagine energy storage so efficient that renewable sources become the obvious economic choice everywhere. I fell in love with his mind first, his heart second, and the whole complicated package of him third. He was brilliant but humble, wealthy but generous, powerful but kind. He had flaws too. He worked too much, could be stubborn about his ideas, and sometimes retreated into silence when stressed. But he was real in a way few people in my life had ever been. When he proposed, it was simple and perfect. No grand gestures or public displays. Just the two of us on his balcony overlooking the city, the place where we had first kissed. Olivia, I never thought I'd find someone who sees me, really sees me. Will you marry me? I said yes, without hesitation. We decided on a small ceremony, just close friends and immediate family. When I called my parents to share the news, my mother's first question was predictable. Who is he? What does he do? I deliberately downplayed Gabriel's success. His name is Gabriel Reynolds. He works in energy technology. The wedding will be small, just 30 people. There was a pause on the line. Reynolds? Not the Reynolds Company? Olivia, are you joking? I should have known she would recognize the name. Yes, that Reynolds. But Mom, please don't make this a big thing. We want something intimate and meaningful. Her tone changed instantly. Darling, you can't have a small wedding with someone of his stature. What will people think? We need to do this properly. I'll call the country club tomorrow. And Vanessa can be your maid of honor, of course.
Bam, no.
We've already decided. The date is set for next month. We've booked the Botanical Garden Conservatory. It's what we both want. The argument escalated from there. My mother couldn't understand why I would waste such an opportunity for a society wedding. She insisted I was being selfish, denying the family a chance to celebrate properly. When I held firm, her tactics changed. You need to think about Vanessa's feelings, she said, her voice sharp with disapproval. She's been working so hard to find someone suitable, and now you're just swooping in and marrying a billionaire? It's insensitive, Olivia. It's not like you even tried to find someone like that. The implication was clear. Gabriel should have been Vanessa's prize, not mine. In my mother's mind, I had somehow cheated by finding happiness with someone wealthy. The final blow came 3 days before the wedding, when my mother called to inform me she wouldn't be attending. I can't support this shameful, hasty wedding, she declared. You're making a spectacle of yourself, Olivia. Gabriel Reynolds could have had anyone, and you're trapping him with this rush ceremony before he realizes it. Her words hurt more than I wanted to admit. My father called separately, apologetic and torn.
I'm sorry. Leave.
Your mother is. She's not handling this well. She's forbidden me from coming, but I want you to know I'm proud of you. I love you. Vanessa sent a text. Way to go, Olivia. Mom's hysterical and it's all because you had to show off. Thanks for ruining everything, as usual. On our wedding day, there were 2 conspicuously empty seats in the front row. Gabriel held my hand tightly as we exchanged vows, his eyes never leaving mine. They're missing out, he whispered. This is their loss, not yours. He was right, but the absence still cast a shadow. As we danced at our reception, surrounded by people who genuinely cared for us, I tried to focus on the joy of the moment. But part of me wondered if this breach with my family could ever be repaired, and what consequences might follow from my mother's bitter disappointment and Vanessa's simmering resentment. I had no idea just how far that resentment would go, or how soon I would find out. The week after our honeymoon in Portugal, I returned to work with a new ring on my finger and a new last name on my email signature. Gabriel and I had decided I would keep my position at Wilson and Reed. My career mattered to me, and he respected that. We agreed to maintain a low profile about our marriage at my workplace. It wasn't a secret, exactly, but I wanted to be known for my work, not my husband. Olivia Reynolds now, is it? My supervisor Diane smiled, examining my ring. Congratulations. The time off suits you. You're glowing. Thank you, I replied, grateful for her warmth. It was a small ceremony, but perfect for us. Well, your secret's safe with me, she winked. Though that rock on your finger might give people ideas. The ring was beautiful, but modest by Gabriel's standards. He had chosen it carefully, selecting something elegant that wouldn't interfere with my daily work. Still, it was certainly nicer than anything I had worn before. For 2 weeks, life settled into a wonderful new pattern. Gabriel and I had moved into his penthouse apartment, which now had touches of my presence throughout. My books on the shelves, my favorite throw blanket on the couch, my coffee mug in the kitchen. Each morning, we would have breakfast together before heading to our respective offices. Each evening, we would reconnect, sharing the details of our days. The only shadow was my family's continued silence. My father had sent a brief congratulatory text after the wedding, but my mother and Vanessa remained unreachable. I had sent them both messages, extending an olive branch, but received nothing in return. Give them time, Gabriel suggested one evening as I stared at my unanswered texts. They're adjusting to a change they didn't anticipate. I know, I sighed. I just never thought my own mother would miss my wedding, because I didn't marry according to her plan. The first sign that something was wrong came 3 weeks after my return to work. I was heading to the break room when I overheard 2 colleagues whispering. Did you hear? Olivia's sister just got hired in the creative department. No way. Isn't that a conflict of interest or something? I froze, certain I had misheard. But when I rounded the corner, there was Vanessa, being introduced to the creative team by our HR director. She was dressed impeccably in a designer suit that must have cost a month of her boutique salary, her hair and makeup flawless. Our eyes met across the room. She smiled, a practiced expression that didn't reach her eyes. Olivia. What a surprise, she exclaimed, as if we had bumped into each other at a cafe rather than at my workplace of 5 years. Vanessa, I managed, my voice steady despite my shock. I didn't know you were interested in marketing. Oh, I've always been interested in creative fields, she replied smoothly. And Wilson and Reed has such a fantastic reputation. When the position opened up, I just had to apply. The HR director beamed. We're lucky to have her. Her portfolio was impressive, and she interviewed beautifully. I nodded, unable to form words. Vanessa had never mentioned interest in marketing. Her college major had been communications, but she had barely scraped through with passing grades. And now she was here, in my space, with a portfolio I knew she couldn't have developed given her work history. We should have lunch this week, Vanessa suggested, her tone dripping with false sweetness. Catch up on everything. Sure, I agreed automatically, still processing the situation. Over the next few weeks, a pattern emerged. Vanessa was charming to everyone at the office. She brought pastries to morning meetings, remembered details about colleagues' children and pets, and stayed late whenever executives were working. She never mentioned Gabriel or my marriage to anyone, allowing me to maintain my privacy on that front. But subtle changes were occurring. Colleagues who used to stop by my office to chat now gathered around Vanessa's desk. Lunch invitations dwindled. When I spoke in meetings, I sometimes caught glances exchanged, as if there were an inside joke I wasn't privy to. I think I'm being paranoid, I told Gabriel one night. But it feels like Vanessa is, I don't know, turning people against me somehow. Trust your instincts, Gabriel said seriously. You're perceptive about people. If something feels off, it probably is. My suspicions were confirmed when Jennifer, an intern who worked closely with me, accidentally forwarded me an email meant for someone else. It contained a thread of messages, including one from Vanessa to several colleagues. Just between us, be careful what you share with Olivia. I hate to say this about my own sister, but she's always been competitive with me. She's been known to take credit for others' ideas. I'm only telling you because I care about this team. I stared at the screen in disbelief. It was a masterful manipulation. Vanessa had painted herself as reluctantly honest while sabotaging my reputation. The responses showed people were buying it. That explains a lot about her recent promotion. No wonder she's so secretive about her personal life. Thanks for the heads up, Vanessa. It's brave of you to say something. Jennifer was mortified when she realized her mistake. Olivia, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for you to see that. It's okay, I assured her, trying to keep my voice steady. I'm glad I know. The situation deteriorated from there. Projects I had been leading were reassigned, with vague explanations about fresh perspectives. My input in meetings was often overlooked or attributed to others. The stress began affecting my sleep, my concentration, and ultimately my performance. You should report this to HR, Gabriel urged. This is workplace bullying. With what evidence? I countered. One misdirected email? Everything else is subtle. And she's my sister. It would look like a family feud spilling into the workplace. I tried confronting Vanessa directly, catching her alone in the copy room. I know what you're doing, I said quietly.
Why?
Is this all because of Gabriel? She arranged her features into a look of innocent confusion. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm just doing my job, Olivia. Maybe you're feeling threatened because people here can finally see us side by side and make comparisons. This isn't a competition, I insisted. It never was. Everything is a competition, she replied, dropping the innocent act. You knew how hard I was working to find someone like Gabriel. You knew it was my turn. But you couldn't stand it, could you? You had to swoop in and take what should have been mine. Her words left me speechless. In her mind, Gabriel was an object to be won, a prize that should have been awarded to her based on some twisted sense of fairness. Gabriel is a person, Vanessa, not a trophy. We fell in love. It had nothing to do with you. She laughed, a brittle sound.
Right. Love.
I'm sure his money had nothing to do with it. You don't know anything about my relationship. And you don't know anything about survival, she hissed. Some of us weren't given the luxury of being the smart one. Some of us had to be the pretty one, the charming one, the one who had to smile even when we were dying inside. You have no idea what it's like to be valued only for how you look and who you might marry. For a moment, I glimpsed the damage our mother's favoritism had done to both of us. But before I could respond, Vanessa's expression hardened again. It doesn't matter now. I'm here, and people are finally seeing who the better sister really is. As she left, I leaned against the copy machine, a sense of dread settling over me. This wasn't just professional jealousy or sibling rivalry. Vanessa was on a mission to destroy the life I had built, piece by piece, starting with my career. The next day, I learned that our team would be pitching to Lambert Industries, a major potential client that could transform the agency's portfolio. And I was assigned to lead the presentation, with Vanessa on the creative team supporting me. It should have been an opportunity to showcase my abilities and rebuild my standing. Instead, it felt like walking into a trap, with no way to decline without confirming the whispers about my competence. The presentation was scheduled for the following Tuesday. I had 1 week to prepare, knowing that Vanessa would be looking for any opportunity to undermine me. What I didn't know was that Tuesday would become a turning point, not just in my career, but in my understanding of family, loyalty, and my own strength. Tuesday morning arrived with a knot of anxiety in my stomach that coffee couldn't dissolve. I had prepared meticulously for the Lambert Industries presentation, staying late every night for a week, rehearsing until I could deliver the pitch in my sleep. The slide deck was polished, the market research thorough, the creative concepts innovative. I had even prepared backup materials in case of technical difficulties. You've got this, Gabriel had assured me that morning, pressing a kiss to my forehead. Remember, you earned your position through talent and hard work. No one can take that away from you. I arrived at the office an hour early to set up the conference room and run through the presentation one final time. Everything looked perfect. The catering had arrived, the technology was working, and the handouts were arranged at each seat. I took a deep breath, straightened my navy blue suit jacket, and went to get a glass of water before the clients arrived. When I returned 10 minutes later, Vanessa was in the conference room, leaning over my laptop. "What are you doing?" I asked, trying to keep my voice neutral. She straightened, smiling brightly. "Just making sure everything's ready. The creative team added some last-minute enhancements to the slides. Trust me, they look amazing now." Before I could question her further, Diane appeared at the door. "They're here. Everyone to their places." The Lambert Industries team consisted of 5 people: their CEO, marketing director, product development lead, and 2 analysts. They were considering a major rebranding campaign for their consumer electronics division, a contract worth millions. This was exactly the kind of client Wilson and Reed needed to expand into new markets. Our team filed in, including Vanessa, who took a seat directly across from the clients, her expression professionally engaged. I stood at the head of the table, forcing a confident smile. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. At Wilson and Reed, we believe that authentic brand storytelling creates meaningful connections with consumers. Today, we're excited to share our vision for how Lambert Industries can reimagine its relationship with its audience." I clicked to advance to the first slide, and that's when I realized what Vanessa had done. Instead of our professionally designed title slide, the screen displayed a personal photo from my college days. I was at a party, clearly intoxicated, draped over a male friend in a way that looked far more suggestive than the innocent moment had been. Gasps and uncomfortable chuckles filled the room. My finger jabbed at the clicker, advancing to the next slide, but it was worse. A crude meme with my face photoshopped onto it, with text implying I slept my way to success. "I'm so sorry," I stammered, frantically clicking forward. There seems to be a problem with the file. Each slide was worse than the last. Private photos, embarrassing moments, even fake images that had been manipulated to put me in compromising positions. My heart pounded in my ears as I desperately tried to find our actual presentation. The Lambert CEO cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should take a short break while you sort this out." "No, please," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I have a backup copy on my drive. This will just take a moment." As I fumbled with the laptop, trying to locate the correct file, I caught Vanessa's expression from the corner of my eye. She was watching me with a small, satisfied smile playing at the corners of her lips. In that moment, I knew with absolute certainty that this was no technical glitch. She had systematically replaced my presentation with this humiliating content. "Is everything all right, Olivia?" Diane asked, her voice tight with concern and embarrassment. "Yes, just a mix-up with the files," I managed, finally locating the correct presentation and opening it. "Here we are. Let's start again." I took a deep breath and launched into the presentation, trying to recapture the room's attention and respect. But the damage was done. The clients were distracted, exchanging glances whenever I spoke. My colleagues looked uncomfortable, some avoiding eye contact entirely. Vanessa occasionally nodded encouragingly, the picture of supportive collegiality, but her eyes gleamed with triumph. Somehow, I made it through the core content, emphasizing the strategic insights and creative approach we were proposing. I was just transitioning to the budget section when the conference room door opened. A collective gasp went through the room, but it wasn't for me this time. All eyes turned to the man standing in the doorway, tall and confident in a perfectly tailored charcoal suit. Gabriel. He surveyed the room with calm interest, his gaze finally settling on me with warmth and pride. "I apologize for interrupting," he said smoothly. "Please continue." "I'm just here to observe." The Lambert CEO stood abruptly, extending his hand. "Mr. Reynolds, this is an unexpected pleasure. We had no idea you were involved with this pitch." Gabriel shook his hand with a modest smile. "I'm not here in an official capacity, just supporting my wife's work. She speaks very highly of Lambert Industries' commitment to innovation." "Your wife." The CEO turned to look at me, his expression shifting from confusion to interest. "Yes, Olivia Reynolds. Gabriel confirmed, moving to stand beside me. One of the most talented marketing strategists I've ever met, which is saying something given how many I work with. The ideas she's presenting today are exactly what drew me to Wilson and Reed for my own company's rebranding last year. The room went completely silent. I could almost hear the mental calculations happening as everyone processed this new information. Vanessa's face had drained of color, her smug expression replaced by shock.
We
had no idea, the marketing director stammered. It's an honor to have you both here. Gabriel smiled graciously. The honor is mine. Now, I believe Olivia was in the middle of explaining your potential ROI from this campaign. With a gentle squeeze of my shoulder, he took a seat at the back of the room, his presence instantly transforming the dynamics. Suddenly, everyone was paying rapt attention to my words. The uncomfortable atmosphere from the sabotaged slides was forgotten as I regained control of the presentation. I finished strong, confidently fielding questions and engaging the clients in a discussion about next steps. Throughout it all, Vanessa remained silent, her earlier confidence evaporated. When the meeting concluded, the Lambert team lingered, eager to speak with Gabriel. He expertly deflected their attention back to me and our team's work, emphasizing that his presence was personal, not professional. Olivia's team has developed a compelling strategy, he told them. I'm just fortunate enough to be married to the brilliant mind behind it. As the clients finally departed, promising to be in touch soon, Diane approached me, her expression a mixture of amazement and confusion. Olivia, why didn't you tell us about your connection to Reynolds Innovation? I wanted to succeed on my own merits, I explained simply. My relationship with Gabriel is separate from my work here. She nodded slowly. Well, it certainly explains the incident with the slides. Someone clearly wanted to undermine you. We'll need to investigate how this happened. Across the room, Vanessa was gathering her things quickly, clearly planning to escape before any confrontation. But Gabriel stepped into her path, his expression serious. Vanessa, he said, his voice quiet but caring. I think we need to talk, don't you? All three of us. She looked from him to me, then to the curious colleagues still lingering in the room. Her shoulders slumped slightly in defeat. Fine, she muttered. But not here. Diane, sensing the tension, intervened. Why don't you use my office? It's private, and I need to brief the team anyway. As we walked toward Diane's office, I could feel the stares of my colleagues following us. The whispers had already begun. By tomorrow, everyone would know that quiet, hardworking Olivia Carter was actually Olivia Reynolds, wife of one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country. And they would know that my own sister had tried to publicly humiliate me. The confrontation that was about to happen had been building for years, fueled by my mother's toxic favoritism and Vanessa's sense of entitlement. But for the first time, I wasn't walking into it alone. Gabriel's steady presence beside me gave me the strength to face what was coming next, to finally stand up for myself against the family patterns that had shaped and wounded both Vanessa and me. Diane's office was sleek and minimal, with glass walls that offered a view of the city's skyline. She had discreetly lowered the blinds before ushering us in, providing privacy from curious onlookers. Vanessa perched on the edge of a chair, her posture rigid and defensive. Gabriel leaned against the desk, his expression neutral but watchful. I remained standing, too filled with adrenaline to sit. So, Vanessa broke the silence first, her voice brittle. This is cozy. The happy couple and the villain, right on cue. Is that how you see yourself? As the villain? I asked quietly. She laughed, a harsh sound without humor. Isn't that how you've cast me? Poor Olivia, always overshadowed by her beautiful, shallow sister. Now finally getting her triumphant moment when her billionaire husband swoops in to save her. I didn't know Gabriel was coming today, I said honestly. And I've never thought of you as shallow, Vanessa. Manipulative, yes. Especially after what you did with those slides. She didn't deny it, which was something. Instead, she turned her attention to Gabriel. So, the mysterious husband reveals himself. Tell me, Gabriel, what exactly attracted you to my sister? Her stunning beauty? Her social connections? Oh wait, That would be me. So it must have been what? Her ability to alphabetize a bookshelf. Gabriel's expression remained calm, unaffected by her barbs. Actually, it was her authenticity. Her intelligence. The fact that when we met, she had no idea who I was and didn't care. She saw me as a person, not a bank account. Vanessa flinched slightly at that. How convenient. The billionaire who just wants to be loved for himself. Do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds? Do you have any idea how sad it is that you think that's ridiculous? Gabriel countered gently. Vanessa, I've met many women like you. Women who were taught that their value lies in who they marry, not who they are. It's not your fault. But what you did today, trying to humiliate your sister professionally, that was your choice. Vanessa's carefully constructed facade began to crack. You don't understand. You couldn't possibly understand what it's been like. Do you know what Mom said when Olivia announced your engagement? She said, "It should have been Vanessa. She's the one we prepared for this." The words hung in the air, raw and revealing. I felt a pang of empathy for my sister despite everything. Our mother had damaged us both, in different but equally profound ways. I never wanted to take anything from you, I said softly. I just fell in love. It was supposed to be my turn. Vanessa's voice rose, emotion breaking through. I did everything right. I was beautiful. I was charming. I sacrificed my education, my interests, everything to be what Mom wanted. And then you, who never even tried, who actively rejected everything Mom taught us, you get the prize? How is that fair? I'm not a prize, Vanessa, Gabriel interjected firmly. I'm a person. And Olivia is not some lottery winner. We built a relationship based on mutual respect and shared values. Easy to say when you have everything, she snapped. I didn't always, he replied calmly. I grew up in foster care. Did you know that?
No parentes, no inheritance, no connexions.
Everything I built from nothing, which is why I value people who do the same. This seemed to catch Vanessa off guard. She glanced between us, momentarily lost for words. I took the opportunity to redirect the conversation. What you did today wasn't just about hurting me. You were willing to damage the company's relationship with a major client. People's jobs could have been affected.
Did you even think about that?
Shame flickered across her face before she could mask it. I didn't think it would go that far. I just wanted you to look incompetent. To fail for once. And then what? I pressed. If I had been fired, would that have made you happy? Would that have fixed whatever you think is broken in your life? She didn't answer immediately. When she did, her voice was smaller. I don't know. I wanted Mom to look at me the way she's going to look at you now. The admission hung in the air, sad and honest. Gabriel and I exchanged glances, a silent communication passing between us. Vanessa, Gabriel said after a moment, what happened today can't be undone. There will be consequences. But what happens next is partly up to you. What do you mean? She asked warily. Professional sabotage is grounds for termination, I explained. And given that we have evidence of what you did with those slides, that's the most likely outcome of any HR investigation. Her face paled. You would do that to your own sister? I didn't create this situation, I reminded her. But I am offering you a choice. You can resign, effective immediately, with a recommendation for a position at another agency where you can start fresh. Or you can face an investigation and likely termination for cause. That's your idea of mercy? She scoffed, but there was less bite in her tone. It's my idea of a second chance, I corrected. Something I think we both need in different ways. Gabriel added, and I'm willing to help you find that next position, Vanessa. Not because you're Olivia's sister, but because I believe people deserve the opportunity to learn from their mistakes. She looked between us, confusion evident in her expression. Why would you help me after what I did? Because holding on to resentment only hurts ourselves, I said. And because despite everything, you're still my sister. We were both shaped by the same dysfunctional dynamics. The difference is that I found my way out. Maybe it's time you found yours too. A long silence followed as Vanessa absorbed our words. Finally, she nodded slowly. I'll resign. But I don't want your charity, Gabriel. I don't want a position I didn't earn. It wouldn't be charity, he assured her. Just an introduction. What you do with the opportunity would be entirely up to you. Something shifted in Vanessa's demeanor then, a subtle softening. I should apologize, I suppose. For the slides. For everything. Yes, you should. I agreed. But not right now. Right now, I think we all need some space to process what happened today. She stood, smoothing her skirt with hands that trembled slightly. I'll clear out my desk and write my resignation letter. As she reached the door, I called after her. Vanessa? This thing between us, it doesn't have to define our entire relationship. When you're ready, maybe we can try to talk. Really talk. She paused, her back to us. Maybe. Then she was gone, the door closing softly behind her. Gabriel moved to my side, wrapping an arm around my shoulders. Are you okay? I leaned into his strength, suddenly exhausted. I don't know. Yes.
No.
It's a lot to process. You handled that with remarkable grace, he said, pressing a kiss to my temple. Most people would have gone for revenge. Revenge wouldn't solve anything, I sighed. And honestly, I just want this cycle to end. For both our sakes. A knock at the door interrupted us. It was Diane, her expression concerned. Olivia, I've just received Vanessa's resignation. She mentioned personal conflicts as her reason. Is everything all right? I straightened, putting on my professional face.
Yes.
It's a family matter that unfortunately spilled into the workplace. I apologize for that. Diane waved away my apology. No need. These things happen. More importantly, I just got a call from Lambert. They were impressed with how you handled the technical difficulties. They want to move forward with us, specifically requesting you as the lead. Relief and validation washed over me. That's wonderful news. Thank you for letting me know. After Diane left, Gabriel pulled me into a proper embrace. I'm proud of you, not just for landing the client, but for how you handled everything today. I melted into his arms, finally allowing myself to feel the full weight of the day's events. Thank you for showing up when you did. How did you know? He smiled against my hair. I didn't. I really was just planning to surprise you for lunch. Divine timing, I guess. As we left the office together, I felt lighter despite the emotional turmoil. For the first time, I had stood up to the toxic patterns in my family without becoming toxic myself. It wasn't a complete resolution, not by any means. There were still difficult conversations ahead, especially with my mother. But it was a start, a turning point. And sometimes, that's all we need to begin healing. The aftermath of what became known around the office as the Lambert presentation incident unfolded gradually over the following weeks. Professionally, things improved almost immediately. The whispers and sidelong glances transformed into open respect and genuine collaboration. Those who had been swayed by Vanessa's manipulations approached me with awkward apologies, which I accepted graciously. I should have verified what I was hearing, Jennifer told me, her expression contrite. It was unprofessional of me to participate in gossip. We all make mistakes, I assured her. What matters is that we learn from them. The Lambert account became my primary focus, and their team was a dream to work with, responsive and open to our creative direction. The success of this high-profile project further cemented my standing at Wilson and Reed, leading to Diane suggesting I consider a path toward partnership. You've proven yourself under extraordinary pressure, she said during our quarterly review. That's the kind of resilience we look for in leaders here. On the personal front, however, matters were more complicated. Vanessa had disappeared from my life again, not responding to my tentative text messages. My father reported that she had moved out of our parents' home and was staying with a friend while looking for her own place. She's not talking much about what happened, he said during one of our weekly phone calls. But she seems different. More subdued, maybe. The most difficult conversations still loomed ahead, confronting my mother about her role in creating the toxic dynamic between Vanessa and me. For 2 months, I postponed it, focusing on work and my life with Gabriel. But the unresolved tension lingered, casting a shadow over my happiness. You'll know when you're ready, Gabriel advised, never pressuring me one way or another. And I'll support whatever decision you make, whether that's reconciliation or distance. The catalyst came unexpectedly in the form of a handwritten letter delivered to our apartment. It was from Vanessa, her usually perfect penmanship slightly uneven, as if written under emotional strain. Olivia, the letter began, I've started therapy. My counselor suggested I write to the people I've hurt as part of my healing process. I don't expect forgiveness or even a response. But I need to acknowledge what I did. The truth is, I've been jealous of you my entire life. Not of your looks or your social life, but of your freedom. You always seemed to know who you were and what you wanted. While I was trying to contort myself into whatever shape would please Mom, you were building a real life on your own terms. What I did at your workplace was unforgivable. I wanted to hurt you because I was hurting. It was childish and cruel. I'm sorry. I've also realized some things about Mom. Her obsession with status and marrying well comes from her own insecurities. She's transferred all her unfulfilled dreams onto us, especially me. That doesn't excuse my behavior, but understanding it helps me see how I can change. I'm not asking to be part of your life again. I haven't earned that. But I wanted you to know that I'm trying to become someone better. Vanessa. The letter shook me more than I expected. It was perhaps the first truly honest communication we'd had in years, without manipulation or performance. I showed it to Gabriel, who read it thoughtfully. What do you think? I asked when he finished. I think she's taking a brave first step, he replied. Accountability isn't easy. No, it isn't, I agreed. And she's right about Mom. I think it's time I had that conversation. The following Sunday, I drove to my parents' suburban home alone. Gabriel had offered to come, but this was something I needed to do myself. My father answered the door, his face lighting up at the sight of me.
Leave.
What a surprise. He enveloped me in a warm hug. Your mother's in the garden. She'll be so happy to see you. I doubted that, but smiled anyway. Thanks, Dad. Is it okay if I talk to her alone first? Understanding dawned in his eyes. Of course. I'll make myself scarce. Just go easy on her, okay? She's been different since Vanessa moved out. Quieter. I found my mother pruning her prized rose bushes, her back to me as I approached. She had always found solace in her garden, tending to her flowers with the same exacting standards she applied to her daughters. Mom, I called softly. She turned, secateur in hand, her face registering surprise. Olivia, I didn't know you were coming. She set down her gardening tools and removed her gloves, movements precise and controlled. Are you here about Vanessa? Because I don't know where she's staying. She barely speaks to me these days. No, I'm here to talk to you. About us. About the way you raised us. Her posture stiffened. If you've come to blame me for Vanessa's behavior at your workplace, that's hardly fair. I didn't tell her to do whatever she did. Not directly, no, I acknowledged, taking a seat on the garden bench. But you created the conditions that made it almost inevitable. What is that supposed to mean? Her voice took on the defensive edge I knew so well. You pitted us against each other our entire lives, I said quietly. You favor Vanessa for her beauty and social skills, while making it clear I was somehow lacking. You taught her that her only value was in who she could marry, and you made her believe that I had somehow stolen her chance at the future you wanted for her. My mother's face flushed. That's ridiculous. I loved you both equally. I just recognized your different strengths.
No, Mom.
You didn't love us equally. You loved the potential you saw in us to fulfill your own unfulfilled dreams. Vanessa was your chance to vicariously marry into wealth and status. I don't know what I was to you. A disappointment, maybe. She sat down heavily on the bench beside me. That's not true. I just wanted what was best for you girls. What was best for us would have been encouraging our individual talents and dreams, not trying to shape us into versions of yourself. A long silence stretched between us, broken only by the distant sound of a lawnmower and birds calling to each other across the garden. You missed my wedding, I said finally, the hurt still fresh. You called it shameful. Do you have any idea how much that hurt me? My mother looked down at her hands, the confident woman I knew suddenly seeming smaller, older. I was wrong, she admitted, her voice barely audible. I was hurt that you hadn't included me in the planning, that you chose such a small ceremony when you were marrying someone so significant. It felt like you were ashamed of us. I wasn't ashamed of you. I was protecting my relationship from exactly the kind of drama that happened anyway. Gabriel and I wanted something intimate and meaningful, not a society spectacle. She nodded slowly. I understand that now. After Vanessa told me what happened at your work, I've been doing a lot of thinking about the way I raised you girls, about my own mother, and how she always made me feel I wasn't good enough, that I needed to marry well to have value. It was the first time I'd ever heard my mother speak about her own upbringing. She had always presented a perfect facade, never revealing the cracks in her own foundation. Why didn't you ever tell us about that? I asked gently. She shrugged, a gesture so unlike her usual composed movements. I thought I was protecting you from my mistakes. I thought if I taught Vanessa the right way to attract a wealthy husband, she wouldn't have to struggle like I did. And you were so different, so independent. I didn't know how to guide someone like you. So you gave up on me? I concluded. No, she shook her head firmly. I let you go your own way because you seemed to know what you were doing. Maybe I was envious of that certainty. I never had it. We sat in silence again, absorbing these new perspectives. The garden around us was beautiful but meticulously controlled, much like the way my mother had tried to shape our lives. I want to try again, she said eventually. With both of you. I don't know how to be different, but I want to learn. It won't be easy, I warned her. There's a lot of hurt to work through. For all of us. I know. She reached out hesitantly and took my hand. But you're my daughter. You both are. And I missed your wedding, something I can never get back. I don't want to miss anything else. It wasn't a perfect resolution. There were no tearful embraces or magical healing of decades of dysfunction. But it was honest, perhaps the most honest conversation we'd ever had. As I left my parents' house that day, my father walked me to my car. Thank you, he said simply. She needed to hear that. We both did. Will she really try to change? I asked him.
He sighed.
I think so. She's been seeing someone actually, a therapist. After what happened with Vanessa. She hasn't told you because, well, pride, I suppose. This surprised me more than anything else. My mother seeing a therapist? The woman who believed in presenting a perfect image to the world at all costs? That's good. I managed. Really good. The following week, I reached out to Vanessa, suggesting we meet for coffee at a neutral location. To my surprise, she agreed. Our conversation was awkward at first, both of us carefully navigating this new, honest territory. I spoke with Mom, I told her. She's trying to change. Vanessa nodded, stirring her latte absently. I know. She called me. Actually apologized, which I think is a first. For both of us. I agreed with a small smile. I got a job, she offered after a pause. Not through Gabriel's connections. On my own. It's at a smaller agency, but they're giving me a chance to build a legitimate portfolio. That's great, Vanessa. I'm happy for you. I'm not sure I deserve your happiness, she said quietly. Not after what I did. Maybe not, I acknowledged. But I'm giving it anyway. That's what families should do. It wasn't an instant transformation from rivalry to sisterhood. But it was a beginning, a tentative first step toward a healthier relationship. As we parted that day, Vanessa hugged me briefly, the gesture stiff but sincere. Thank you, she whispered, for not giving up on me when you had every reason to. Over the next few months, our family began the slow, sometimes painful process of rebuilding. There were therapy sessions, both individual and together. There were setbacks and misunderstandings, old patterns reasserting themselves in moments of stress. But there was also growth, gradual and genuine. My mother met Gabriel properly for the first time at a small dinner at our apartment. She was nervous, overdressed, and initially too formal. But by the end of the evening, she had relaxed enough to laugh at his jokes and even share some stories from her own youth. "He's not what I expected," she admitted as she was leaving. "He's real. And he clearly adores you." "That's what matters, Mom," I told her. "Not his bank account. The way he treats me." She nodded thoughtfully. "I'm beginning to understand that." At work, I continued to thrive. The Lambert campaign launched successfully, earning industry recognition and bringing in several new clients. Diane made good on her hint about partnership, officially inviting me to join the leadership track. "Your handling of the Lambert situation showed us what you're made of," she told me. "That's the kind of resilience and integrity we want in our partners." Through it all, Gabriel remained my steadfast support, never saying, "I told you so," when my attempts at reconciliation with my family sometimes faltered, always encouraging me to trust my own judgment. "You know what I love most about you?" he said one night as we sat on our balcony, watching the city lights. "Your capacity for growth. You could have let what happened with Vanessa and your mother harden you. Instead, you're using it to become even more compassionate." I leaned against him, grateful for his presence in my life. "I learned that from you, you know. You could have been justifiably angry at Vanessa, but instead you offered her a path forward." He smiled. "Maybe we're good for each other that way." "Maybe we are," I agreed, watching the stars emerge above the city skyline. The journey wasn't over. There would be more difficult conversations, more moments of truth and reconciliation. But for the first time, I felt hopeful that our family could heal, that the cycles of toxicity could be broken. And in that hope, I found a peace I hadn't known was possible. A year passed, then two. Life settled into new patterns, some expected, others surprising. The most unexpected development came 6 months after our confrontation in the garden, when my mother arrived at our door one evening, unannounced and visibly nervous. "I want to apologize properly," she said, standing stiffly in our entryway. "For missing your wedding. For everything." She handed me a small package wrapped in silver paper. Inside was a delicate silver frame containing a photo from Gabriel's and my wedding day. We were facing each other, laughing at something unheard, completely absorbed in our joy. I hadn't even known the photo existed. "How did you get this?" I asked, running my finger over the glass. "I contacted your photographer," she admitted. "I wanted to see what I missed. And when I saw this one," her voice cracked slightly, "I realized what a fool I'd been. No mother should miss seeing her daughter this happy." It wasn't a grand gesture, but it was sincere. And it marked the beginning of my mother's genuine efforts to change. She continued her therapy, gradually opening up about her own childhood and the pressure she had felt to marry well, to achieve status through her husband and children. "My mother was so disappointed when I married your father," she confessed during one of our now regular lunch dates. She called him ordinary. And somehow, I internalized that as my failure. I transferred that sense of inadequacy onto you girls, especially Vanessa. "But Dad is wonderful," I protested. "He's kind and stable and hardworking." "I know that now," she nodded. "I always knew it, really. But I was so caught up in chasing some external validation that I couldn't appreciate what was right in front of me. It cost me years of happiness. And it nearly cost me my daughters." These conversations weren't always easy, but they were healing. Slowly, I began to see my mother as a complete person, not just the critical figure who had shaped my childhood insecurities. Understanding didn't erase the hurt, but it helped me contextualize it, to see how patterns of behavior had been passed down through generations. Vanessa's journey was perhaps the most profound transformation. After 6 months at the smaller agency, she had built enough legitimate experience to move to a mid-sized firm where she quickly began to excel. Her natural charisma, once directed toward finding a wealthy husband, now served her well in client relations and creative pitching. "I actually love this work," she told me over brunch, her eyes bright with genuine enthusiasm. "I feel like I'm using parts of myself that were always there but got buried under Mom's expectations." Our relationship had evolved into something neither of us could have imagined 2 years earlier, a friendship based on mutual respect and understanding. We still had our moments of tension, old triggers that occasionally surfaced, but we were learning to communicate through them rather than retreat into resentment. "Do you think we could ever have gotten here without that horrible day at the office?" she asked once. "I don't know," I answered honestly. "Sometimes it takes a crisis to break through denial. But I'm glad we're here now, whatever the path." My professional life continued to flourish. The partnership at Wilson and Reed became official on my third anniversary with the firm. I developed a reputation for innovative campaigns that connected authentically with audiences, drawing on my own experiences to create marketing that respected consumers' intelligence while engaging their emotions. Gabriel's company expanded into international markets, his sustainable energy solutions gaining traction in countries facing climate-related challenges. We maintained our balance of supporting each other's careers while protecting our personal life from becoming defined by work or wealth. "Success is meaningless if you're not sharing it with people who matter," Gabriel often said. It became something of a personal motto for us both, guiding our decisions about time, resources, and priorities. We established a foundation focused on educational opportunities for foster children, inspired by Gabriel's own background. The work was quietly satisfying, deliberately kept separate from our professional identities. We wanted to help without the public recognition that often accompanies philanthropic efforts by wealthy individuals. Real change happens person by person, Gabriel believed, not through press releases and galas. 2.5 years after the Lambert presentation incident, we hosted a holiday dinner at our home. Around the table sat my parents, Vanessa and her new boyfriend Daniel, a kind, thoughtful teacher she had met through volunteer work, and several close friends. The conversation flowed naturally, punctuated by laughter and the comfortable silences of people at ease with one another. Watching my mother and Vanessa interact with genuine warmth, seeing my father's quiet pride as he listened to his daughters discuss their work, I felt a profound sense of gratitude for the journey we had all undertaken. Later that evening, as Gabriel and I washed dishes side by side, we still insisted on doing some household tasks ourselves, despite having staff who could handle them. He nudged my shoulder gently. "You're quiet. Everything okay?" I smiled, passing him a plate to dry. "Just reflecting. 2 years ago, I couldn't have imagined a holiday dinner with my family that didn't end in tension or tears. Now look at us." "You made that happen," he said simply. "Your courage to confront the patterns, your willingness to forgive without enabling. It changed everything." "We all did it," I corrected. "Even Mom," which I never would have believed possible. After our guests departed, we settled on the balcony with glasses of wine, wrapped in blankets against the December chill. The city below sparkled with holiday lights, a tapestry of lives and stories unfolding in countless windows. "What's the biggest lesson from all of this?" Gabriel asked, his arm warm around my shoulders. "If you had to distill it down." I considered the question carefully. "I think that authentic relationships are the only ones worth having. That status and appearances are poor substitutes for genuine connection. And that healing is possible, even from the deepest wounds, if we're brave enough to face the truth." "That's more than one lesson," he teased. "Life is complicated," I shrugged, smiling. "It deserves multiple insights." Looking back on the journey from that humiliating day at the office to this moment of peace, I realized how much we had all grown. My mother had confronted her own insecurities and the damage they had caused. Vanessa had discovered her authentic self beyond the role she had been cast in. My father had found his voice in our family after years of quiet acquiescence. And I had learned that standing up for myself didn't mean rejecting those who had hurt me, but rather establishing boundaries that allowed for genuine healing. The path hadn't been linear or perfect. There had been setbacks and difficult days. But the overall trajectory had been toward greater understanding, forgiveness, and authenticity. Not forgiveness that enabled further abuse, but forgiveness that freed us all from the prison of resentment and allowed space for change. In the end, perhaps that's the most profound lesson of all. that we always have the choice to define success on our own terms. Not through status or wealth or others' approval, but through the quality of our connections, the integrity of our actions, and the courage to live authentically even when it's difficult. As we sat there in comfortable silence, I wondered about other families trapped in similar cycles of toxicity and competition. How many mothers were transferring their unfulfilled dreams onto their daughters. How many siblings were being pitted against each other in ways that would damage their relationships for decades. The thought inspired me to begin writing about our experience, not as a tell-all expose, but as a thoughtful exploration of family dynamics and the possibility of transformation. That writing eventually became a series of essays published in major women's magazines, touching a chord with readers who recognized their own families in our story. Your words gave me the courage to have the conversation I've been avoiding with my sister for 20 years, one reader wrote. We're talking again for the first time since our mother's funeral. Those responses reminded me that our personal journeys, however private they may seem, can illuminate paths for others. By sharing our stories honestly, we create possibilities for connection and healing beyond our immediate circles. Life continues to unfold in unexpected ways. There are still occasional tensions when old patterns threaten to resurface. But now we have tools to recognize and address them before they can take root again. We've learned to communicate with honesty and compassion, to listen without defensiveness, to forgive without forgetting the lessons of the past. The moment my sister humiliated me at work and my husband walked in became a turning point, not just in my career, but in our entire family system. What could have been simply a moment of revenge and triumph became instead the catalyst for profound healing. And perhaps that's the greatest victory of all. Not that Vanessa was exposed or that my professional reputation was restored, but that we all found our way to a more authentic version of family than we had ever known before. Have you ever experienced a moment of public humiliation that ultimately led to positive change? Or had to navigate complicated family dynamics that tested your resilience? Share your story in the comments below. Remember that by opening up about our challenges, we create space for others to feel less alone in theirs. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel for more stories of transformation, and share with someone who might need to hear that healing is possible, even in the most broken relationships. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and remember, true success isn't measured by status or wealth, but by the courage to live authentically and love genuinely.